United have got to grow a pair of balls, and United have to go out there and start making some serious signings and push off all these rival clubs for these signings. It's got to be done. Are Liverpool about to poach Man United target Sofyan Amrabat? Yes, we're hearing that Liverpool are now in on getting Sofyan Amrabat. If that is the case, we are in big trouble, and there's going to be scenes, let me tell you. Losing to our rivals, the biggest rivals, Liverpool. Liverpool have been doing this to United time and time again in recent years. United need to grow a pair of balls and get this done. Why have we been waiting so long in getting this Amrabat deal done if we're really after him? I mean, look, I've not heard anything concrete that Man United have been making moves for Amrabat, but everyone has been talking about this happening and has spoken to Ten Hag. If that is the case, look, I really would not like missing out on Amrabat. What I've heard is that the player Amrabat would prefer a Man United move, but the biggest problem Man United are having is having the money to go out and spend on these players and start making offers, and that's why they're having to do a deal at a time and not make any offers together for players, because they haven't got the budget and they do not want to have issues where they are trying to sign one player and haven't got the funds. Therefore, they're doing the one player at a time approach, as we've seen with Onana, Mount, and now there's talk of it moving to Højlund, but that could be off. So whatever money they have, they could put towards Amrabat. But realistically, like we've discussed before in the previous shows, Man United need a striker. More than anything else, they need a striker in that squad. But we need money to get our targets in. We need to start selling players. Elanga is in negotiations. So is Fred, which is really good news. These two players are being touted and being aggressively chased after by several clubs. Elanga and Fred. So them two are key players right now. A lot of teams are interested in them. A lot of teams are approaching them. And they are in current negotiations with teams with personal terms. And then hopefully Manchester United should receive formal offers for both of those players, but we want them offers in as quick as possible. And this is the problem. We can't force teams to start making offers, because we would be in a weak position if we are asking them to make offers for our players that we're desperate to sell. Now, not sure what the news is on Harry Maguire. We're getting mixed reports here. Some reports are saying that Harry Maguire has made a decision to stay on at Manchester United and work his way back to the first team. Some reports are saying that he sat down with Ten Hag and Ten Hag has let him know that he's not in his future plans, and Harry Maguire is now open to moves elsewhere. West Ham are said to be tapping him up after receiving a huge amount of money from the Declan Rice sale. What we can say is that Harry Maguire is one of the biggest assets in terms of transfer fee for Manchester United. He would bring in the largest amount of transfer fee if he was sold, and therefore I think he is the ideal candidate to be put on that list and be sold as soon as possible, and we can get in some serious money and go out and purchase somebody else for that amount. We would be really interested in finding out what you think, what the community thinks about the whole situation with Harry Maguire. Do you feel Harry Maguire should stay or go at Manchester United? Drop your comments below. Have your say, because we love hearing from hardcore Man United fans about what they think should be going on at the club. Personally, I think we could make some serious money by selling Harry Maguire, and I say get rid of him quick as possible. And I think that is the consensus with lots of fans out there, as I'm hearing. The good news is that the Saudis are now finally considering approaching several United players, which means that we can make some decent money from those sales, as the clubs in the Premier League in Europe will not be offering the same amount of money that the Saudis are offering right now for players. Talking about money being offered, last night I read an article from the Mirror newspaper, which is the tabloid newspaper in the UK, that said the Glazers had spoken to Ten Hag and assured him that they will get him the funds needed to go out there and buy more players. I cannot confirm this story, and it's extremely difficult to get anything out of the Glazers right now. Many people for months have been trying to get a statement from the Glazers on the United takeover sale, but they have refused to say a single word, and yet all of a sudden they're happy to say that they're pledging more money towards United. Sorry, so let me correct that. They're not actually pledging any money towards United, they're just letting United pay for more players that United wants. The Glazers have never spent their own personal money on buying players, and I don't think they're going to start anytime soon. Okay, so the Glazers are saying that they will give Ten Hag the money to go out there and buy whoever he wants. I'm going to come out and say this, I don't believe that statement. I really don't. It doesn't make sense to me. However, if this statement is true, then it brings into doubt the wholesale, the takeover of United. Why would the Glazers be making such statements unless they wanted to buy the favour of the United fans? If we look back at each and every recent transfer window under the Glazers, you will see a pattern emerging. The pattern is that Man United don't do anything during the transfer window, and we lose our key targets to rival clubs without making any moves for them, without making any serious offers. We do not get in there, we do not get into the mix. We just simply watch from the sidelines and let other teams fight it out for these top players. We in turn end up signing mid players and make no moves for anyone huge. Then what happens is fans begin to protest to get the Glazers out. And lo and behold, the Glazers on the last day or two of the transfer window, after feeling the pressure from the fans, sanction a big money move, signing a player to silence the fans. Are we heading towards another window like this? It looks like we are. And the big money signing is never an A-class player, never a world-class player. It's always a B-class player who reluctantly ends up coming to Manchester United, just because of the contract that they've thrown at him, just because of the money that Man United are throwing at that kind of player. The Glazers could be saying that they're here to stay by offering this money. That's what I think. The Glazers could be offering this money as a peacemaking strategy between the fans and themselves, and signalling that they're actually here to stay and they're not considering selling the club. But what we have found out is that the fan protests do actually affect the Glazers, so we need to keep the pressure up on them and force them to sell the club. In relation to the takeover and sale of Man United, right now the news has been coming out that the Glazers want more money for the club and they're not ready to part with it unless they get more money for the club. Part of me, I'm not going to lie, wants Sheikh Yassim to come in, smack £10 billion down and tell the Glazers to get on their bike and get out of the club. That would be amazing. Then Sheikh Yassim can come in and buy Osimhen and buy all these top strikers, top players, and make United an insane team. But then I wake up and the reality is that this is not going to happen. Firstly, we must remember that if Sheikh Yassim spends all of his money buying up the club, then he will have nothing left to spend on the club, the facilities, and bringing in new players. Sheikh Yassim probably does have £8 to £10 billion to spend on the club, but this involves spending money after buying the club. He doesn't just want to give all that money to the Glazers and line their pockets. What he wants to do is give them something, but then have the rest of it left over to spend on the club, its infrastructure, and buying the club some decent players and making it into a top club. And I don't blame him. I don't want him to be giving the Glazers all that money. We all know and have established that the Glazers don't actually care about the club, and they're probably looking at the bid that Sheikh Yassim's made and where he's pledging another 1 to 2 billion for the facilities of the club and thinking, no, we want that money. We want Sheikh Yassim to give us that money. We don't care whether the facilities at Old Trafford are not good enough or the other stadiums falling apart. We don't care. We want that money to be given to us, and I think that's what's bugging them. What they want is Sheikh Yassim to add that 1 to 2 billion that he's pledged towards the club. After he buys the club, they want that money in their back pockets. They're probably pushing Sheikh Yassim to have that money in their back pocket, so they probably want him to increase his bid to 8 billion so they can have that money in their own back pockets. Coming back to the transfer news, it's obvious we were going to always encounter competition from other teams, and we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting to hear that other teams are in for Højlund, and now we have heard that PSG are in for Højlund and they're going after him as well. We were always going to face that competition for these kind of players. Same thing with Amrabat. Amrabat is a very, very good replacement for Henderson, who's leaving for Saudi Arabia, and Liverpool have probably eyed up Sofyan Amrabat and realised that he is a cheap replacement for Henderson, and they are going to probably go after him guns blazing. We can still do this. We can still get Sofyan Amrabat. Whether he was our number one target, I'm not quite sure, but if that was the case, we still need to hold firm and we need to go out and get that player in ASAP. Yes, we can do this. United have got to grow a pair of balls, and United have to go out there and start making some serious signings and push off all these rival clubs for these signings. It's got to be done. We've got to scrap it out. We've got to go in for the fight, because if we don't, we'll never win anything. Anyway guys, hit that like button and please subscribe, and I will catch you later. Goodbye.